Okay, today we are going to try something that you guys have never done before, but I think it should work out pretty well for you. We are going to flip the classroom, and you're going to take your notes listening to me like this on YouTube. Today we're going to talk about the Northeast. We're going to start Chapter 7 today, Regions of the United States, and we're going to go around similar to how we did your map quizzes. We're going to start with the Northeast for Section 1. Then 7.2 is going to be the South. 7.3, we're going to talk about a very familiar area to you, the Midwest. And then 7.4, we're going to talk about an area that I really like, having lived out there, which is the West. By the time we're done today, we should be able to tell the effects of the Northeast physical characteristics and resources on its economy. We should be able to describe the development of industry in the Northeast, and we should be able to explain why the Northeast has become a megalopolis. Now, people will define regions in order to identify places that have similar characteristics or close connections. As we talked about way back in Chapter 1, there are many ways to define the regions of the United States. Historically, by the ways people live, work, and play in them, or by their political orientation. As maps throughout the book have shown, landforms, climate, and vegetation all suggest different boundaries for North America's physical regions. The economic activity and population density map suggests other divisions based on human characteristics. Today we're going to take a look at the United States government for regional classifications, and the government, for the purpose of collecting statistics, divides the country into four major regions: the Northeast, South, Midwest, and West. If you look in your book on page 156, they have this pretty clearly mapped out for you. The government's definition of these regions is based on a combination of physical, economic, cultural, and historical factors, many of which we'll talk about in Chapter 7. Now the New England region includes 6 states that are located in the northeastern part of the United States. The region is known for its beautiful landscape. I think I've got a little ahead of myself here. Hold on here. Let me see if I can find where we are. There we go. This is where we're supposed to be. Sorry. So the last one, write those notes down. If you got to go back, go ahead and pause it. We get those notes down. Like I said, the region is known for its very beautiful landscape, and the beauty is the result of geography and climate. The unique combination of precipitation, types of soil, and varieties of trees that thrive in the region give New England its breathtaking fall colors. But the Northeast has far more to offer than just magnificent forests. A visitor wanting a broad view of the Northeast might head for the craggy coast of Maine, New York's spectacular Niagara Falls, or the rolling farmlands of Pennsylvania. Every year, millions of tourists flock to the Northeast just to explore its world-famous cities. New York is considered by many to be the cultural center of the nation, where Boston and Philadelphia offer visitors a view into the nation's history. Now, compared with other regions of the United States, the Northeast has few natural resources. The region's thin, rocky soils and steep hills are a challenge to the area's farmers. The northern reaches of the Appalachian Mountains make some parts of the Northeast quite rugged. Apart from the coal-rich area of Pennsylvania, the region has few mineral resources, but the Northeast has one major resource that has turned it into a center of trade, commerce, and industry, which are its waters. Since colonial times, people of the Northeast have engaged in commerce, trading and buying and selling, and fishing. The region's rocky and jagged shoreline provides many excellent harbors. Throughout the 1700s and 1800s, these natural harbors were used by merchant ships sailing to and from other regions of the world. Plentiful fish in the Grand Banks in the North Atlantic support a very thriving fishing industry. Now, the Northeast's many rivers, including the Connecticut and the Hudson, have been vital to this history of the area. The same hills that discouraged farming aided industrialists in the 19th century. The abundant precipitation, about 35 to 50 inches annually or yearly, combined with the hilly terrain, keeps the rivers of the region flowing swiftly. Industrialists have been able to harness this power of these rivers by building water wheels, which converted water power into machine power. This is a picture here of the Connecticut River. You can see it's very wide, and it's very good for bringing our ships up and down. Now, throughout the 1800s, especially in Massachusetts, Rhode Island, and New Hampshire, factories were built at waterfalls along the region's many rivers. The factories produced shoes, cotton, cloth, and other goods that were sold across the United States and shipped to markets around the world. The region's river valleys served as trade routes, railroad routes, and later as modern highway routes for the Northeast. By the early 1900s, the Northeast was the most productive manufacturing region, not only in the United States or in the colonies, but in the world. Now, cities along the Atlantic coast first grew in importance as harbors of international trade and as centers of shipbuilding. As manufacturing grew, those cities attracted industries that needed a large supply of workers. Decade after decade, new industries developed and the Northeast cities grew in population. Young people from the northeastern countryside flocked to the factory towns to take industrial jobs. Europeans were also attracted by, the job opportunities in cities in the Northeast. In 1840, about 80,000 Europeans immigrated to the United States. By 1850, the number jumped to 308,000. And you can see here, this is a picture of New York City. The reason we're growing so fast here is because there are lots of jobs available for people to work on. So here you can see a video or another picture of New York City up close. This is actually Manhattan, Midtown New York. And you can just see the sheer amount of office buildings, apartments, and just humanity everywhere. Now, over time, coastal cities began to spread and they started to run together. The far suburbs of one city, in some cases, stretched to the suburbs of the next city. By the 1960s, the area from Boston to Washington, D.C. had earned a new name called megalopolis, which was a word based off of the Greek roots meaning a very large city. About 40 million people now live in this megalopolis, 1/7 of the entire United States population. So if we were to grab everybody in the U.S. and ask them where they lived, 1 out of every 7 would say that they live between Boston and Washington, D.C. in this megalopolis, sometimes even known as BOWASH. So if you look actually on page 135 in your textbook, it shows the population density of this crowded part of the East Coast. So all the cities between Boston to Washington, D.C. all blend together. So while the East Coast megalopolis remains one of the dominant centers of American business and industry, it faces very serious problems too. After decades of steady expansion, its inhabitants now have serious concerns the area might run short of water or of facilities for waste disposal. Another problem facing many cities in the Northeast is a decline in population. Between 1970 and 2000, for example, the population of the city of Philadelphia declined by more than 430,000 people. As a result, the city government needs to collect higher taxes from fewer residents and businesses, and the city has to rely on other sources of revenue to pay for many basic services like street repairs and police protection. Now, the Northeast remains a very vital area, even though places like Philadelphia are shrinking. Despite the destruction of the World Trade Center in 2001, New York is still the business capital of the world, and its population has grown to more than 8 million people. Businesses and industries that want to be near large numbers of consumers continue to thrive in the Northeast, and different tax breaks have spurred the creation of new jobs. The natural beauty of less crowded parts of the region also attract people, which definitely would not be this picture of seagulls in a dump. Anyways, that is the end. Hopefully it wasn't too bad for you. And when we pick up with section 2, we are going to talk about the South. So let me know if you like this or not.